Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Ben. Now it seems that people liked our video entitled The 5 Worst Jobs in Star Wars, so we have decided to do a part 2. This is The 5 Worst Jobs in Star Wars, part 2. First up, we have a Rebel Alliance sentry, like this guy, Ocello Prenert. He had to stand up on this raised platform above the forest like a sitting duck, exposed to any incoming attack and armed with only a blaster pistol. We know from the movies that the rebels did have the ability to scan for incoming ships. They could accurately track the position of the Death Star in A New Hope. So what exactly was this dude doing as a sentry? Any approaching ground attack would come from the forest floor, which was obscured by the canopy. So perhaps he was just looking out for wildlife, like the charming woodlamander, a native species of Yavin 4 which resided in the forest canopy and held its balls in its hand. Or maybe that's its tail. Anyway, to be honest, if the base was attacked, he would probably be the last person to find out about it, since he could only see ships once they came within visual range, and his friends with access to the scanners would probably be long gone by then. Anyway, the job was even more dangerous for the actor who played this role, Industrial Light and Magic's Lorne Peterson, who was actually the chief model maker for A New Hope. He had to stand inside this 50-gallon trash can on a suspended platform above the forest of Tikal in Guatemala. He was selected for the job because he had no children. Next, we have scavengers. We often find them on desolate planets like the Jawas on Tatooine or Rey on Jakku.
Where are you from?
Nowhere.
No one's from nowhere.
Jakku.
Alright, that is pretty much nowhere.
The Jawas traveled around in large and ridiculously slow sand crawlers, picking up any scrap metal, droids or machinery they could find. They had to avoid the violent and unpredictable sand people, and also crate dragons who, when hungry, would attack whoever they stumbled upon. Then we have Rey on Jakku, who had to work for measly portions of some kind of nutritional supplement, and her only way out was to turn to a life of crime, jacking spaceships and aligning herself with rebel scum. Next, we have a spice processing slave on the planet of Yelicia. This planet was a tropical paradise where the Hutts were running a peaceful religious retreat known as the Cult of the One and All. I mean, what could possibly go wrong?
Started as an effort by a charismatic preacher to build a new society, but it ended, of course, with the tragic deaths of more than 900 people.
This time Jones served a punch spiked with cyanide. More than 900 died, 300 of them children. Jones shot himself.
In this case, the Hutts sent male Tilander Till, a kind of space cow, on missionary journeys across the galaxy. They would conduct religious ceremonies comprising of what was actually their mating call. This mating call attracted the female of their species, but it had an even more extreme effect on sentient humanoids, filling them with pleasure like taking heroin or ecstasy. They would then willingly attend the retreat on the planet and would be exposed to more religious ritual mating calls like getting hooked on a drug, and the Hutts could then exploit them to process spice in order to attain their next fix. The planet was also home to the Reek, and we know how dangerous they can be when they're hungry. In Legends, and this is all Legends anyway, Han Solo's first piloting job was on Yelicia. Here you can see him covering his ears so he doesn't get hooked on the mating call. Next, we have the Coruscant Underworld Police, who faced the daunting task of bringing order to the lower levels of Coruscant, a planet with civilizations thousands of levels deep. While regular Coruscant security officers had to conduct counter-terrorism operations, solve crimes, and do traffic duty on the surface of the planet, these guys had to go down into the underworld where the lower you went, the worse it got. Things were so bad down there that the officers assigned to the Underworld Police were given special armor that protected their entire body and enabled them to remain anonymous when carrying out their duties. The underworld was inhabited by thugs, drug dealers, and gangs, and at its lowest levels, humanoids that were so degenerate that they were practically zombies. Last and most certainly least, the most lame job out there was being a member of the Jedi Agricultural Corps. Remember that movie Divergent where the cool kids get to be in Dauntless and they get to fight bad guys and jump off moving trains and cool stuff like that, and the less able ones get stuck doing farming, tending to plants, and they have to pretend that they're happy all the time. And it's kind of the same in the Jedi Order. If you failed to pass your Jedi trials, you may end up in one of the 4 service corps of the Jedi: the Medical Corps, the Exploration Corps, the Education Corps, and the Agricultural Corps. Now, while the Exploration Corps doesn't sound too bad, the Agricultural Corps, or Agri-Corps, sounds pretty lame to me. You'd have to still hold yourself to the requirements of being a Jedi, but instead of flying in starfighters and having lightsaber duels, you'd be in a lab researching new GMO crops or using the Force to care for plants. There's one story about Hestizo Trace, who had to care for an orchid using the Force. She had formed a connection with the plant, and if she ventured away from it, it would wilt and die. Darth Scarabus had used a chemical from this orchid to create an elixir of immortality. Only drawback was it turned you into a cannibalistic zombie. Trace had to negotiate with the plant to get it to grow parts of itself inside these zombies to kill them. To be honest, the whole thing sounds like a big headache to me, being forced to care for a plant, dealing with zombies. I'd rather stab myself with a lightsaber. Okay guys, that is our 5 worst jobs in Star Wars Part 2. Which one do you think is the worst? Or are there any more that we haven't mentioned? I'd love to hear your comments. As always, please subscribe if you're new, give this video a like, and if you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.